Hey guys, Volcano the Bat here. So I wanted to take the time to make this explanation video regarding the Sonic 06 E3 demo. So let's head back 12, nearly 13 years ago, to the day that Sonic 06 was playable at E3. As I'm sure many of you already know by now, the E3 demo features a lot of scrapped content from the original 06, a lot of scrapped content that would have easily made the game a lot better. To those who don't know, the E3 demo consists of Sonic going through Kingdom Valley's first section and fourth Machspeed section, and Silver's first section of Crisis City. There isn't a lot of videos regarding this demo, but luckily, with the limited footage that we have received, we have learnt a lot out of it. Part of the reason why I'm making this video is to explain to you guys the little details that you guys might have missed when watching the footage. Not just that, but as someone as a modder and a speedrunner, I have noticed little details that are very easy to miss. So starting off the video, we can already see that there is some big changes here. The Sonic and Silver renders you see here are actually scrapped renders, never found in the game files and never seen in promotional art. Popular renderers such as Nibrock have tried to replicate this pose. Some have managed to find different copies of Sonic's pose, but unfortunately nothing regarding Silver, though to be honest I can't say I'm completely surprised given the game's reception. Something pretty interesting to note might be the title screen. Still in Kingdom Valley, still at the start, but on a slight different angle. And in my opinion, I actually do prefer this. I guess it's because you actually get to see the continuation of the stage. In the original, the lighting feels a little too much like Tropical Jungle, and the geometry feels a little misleading, the fact that there's a castle right next to the start. Wait, what? And where the level leads doesn't really feel like retail. It leaves me with unanswered questions. Whereas here, it actually does feel like Kingdom Valley. If this were to appear in the original game, the only nitpick would be the sky setting. Well, that is assuming that the game would be continuing to use the overcast setting. Aside from the background changes and the scrapped renders, the actual 06 loader and the press start loader has actually changed a little bit, be it a different style or different font completely. I'm kinda on and off with this one. I sort of prefer a bit of retail, but at the same time I sort of prefer a bit of E3, so I'm a bit on the fence with this one. I might also add in the PS3 version of retail, it says press start button compared to the 360's press start, whereas here in the E3 demo it just says press start, even if they are playing on PS3, so meh. It also says Sega Corporation 2006 compared to copyright Sega, so again a very small difference, but hey, that's how they did it. While I'm on topic to sprite changes, as I'm sure most of you already know by now, the HUD of the gameplay actually has changed quite a lot. Looking a bit like the Generations HUD, but also looking quite original at the same time, especially since this did come out before Generations. Aside from that, there is some small changes compared to retail. On the timer, the second digit for the minutes isn't actually present, where in retail it does have 2 digits. The life icon also looks a lot more like Sonic Unleashed compared to actual renders used. This is also applied for Silver as well, so this makes me believe that every character used a Sonic life icon, kinda like how the Tokyo Game Show 2006 demo did. I found this pretty interesting, but the E3 HUDs, aside from the actual main display, the subtitles appear to be quite different, the text being a lot bigger, the box itself being a lot more transparent, and also not having an outline. We haven't seen them all yet, but from all the footage we have received, AX Square and RT is quite different from the finals AX Square and RT. It really does make me wonder how Y, B, circle, triangle, all of that jank, how it might have looked, just how different it is. Unfortunately, we'll never really know unless this demo is leaked. Immediately, you will notice there is a big change in the loading screen. I actually like what the E3 demo does. It keeps the stage a mystery, giving you a hint to what the stage might look like, but not completely spoiling it. Whereas retail gives you an exact representation on how the stage is going to look, and even better, stage geometry that you are going to intercept sooner or later is spoiled. Might also point out that the first section has a stage loader loading screen, whereas the second section loading screen has a black loading screen. Which is interesting because retail never does this. I mean, it does have black loading screens, but it never uses them during a stage. Well, unless it's going into a boss cutscene, but even then, it only does that for Team Attack Amigo. But yet again, it's still keeping the stage a mystery, keeping you guessing to what's going to happen, what the stage is going to look like, which I really do admire. The biggest change I want to point out is how fast the loading strokes are going. Comparing this to retail, this is a lot faster. I understand many people could look at this and think, oh well, the E3 demo just had a faster loading stroke. And I thought that for a while. But not too long into gameplay, the commentator says, confirming that they have sped up the game. And this is part of the reason why I wanted to make this video. because I didn't realize it, but pretty much throughout the entire video, the whole demo is being sped up left and right. When the commentator said that we've sped him up quite a bit, I thought he was comparing the Tokyo Game Show 2005 demo speed to the E3 demo speed, because this is the very first time we've actually got a glimpse at 06's gameplay since that tech demo. I knew that the loading strokes were being sped up, but I didn't think it was sped up this way. The easiest way to confirm this is if you look right at the end of a loading screen, how it was sped up with the loading strokes before now go back to retail speed. Also, in other E3 videos, we never actually see the loading strokes go this fast, so again, if it was sped up beyond retail speed, and goes back to retail speed after the loading screen ends, and the fact that this was for a semi-interview playthrough, it only makes sense that they would want to speed up the loading. I don't know, I feel like it's a little too convenient to be a coincidence, especially when other camera-recorded playthroughs don't actually have faster loading strokes. Another good example is Sonic's animations. I always had a feeling that he was running faster than retail, but after I noticed that his animations were playing a lot faster than normal, then going back to normal speed, I knew something was definitely up. And if you're still not quite seeing the change, that's perfectly understandable. The best example I can think of, aside from the animation speed up, take a look at the timer of the stage. Since this is played on the PS3 version, there is 100% easily going to be some slowdown. In fact, it might very well be the reason why they decided to speed up the game during this playthrough.
Actually thinking about it makes more sense.
But I went ahead and actually put on a legitimate timer just to see how accurate 06's time is. I even timed my timer to be in front of the 06 timer, and what do you know, the 06 timer beat mine. This is sped up. If we take a look back at gameplay, surprisingly, this demo doesn't actually use everything that it was supposed to. For example, every character in 06 basically has a jump up animation, and to those who haven't seen this or know what it is, it's basically like an animation as if they've hit a spring. So they're not in a ball animation, they're just flying up. Sonic does actually have this and uses it in the Machspeed section, but he never uses it in normal sections. The Tokyo Game Show 2005 demo does actually use this for normal Sonic sections, but in this demo, instead of using his actual jump up animation, it's replaced with a basic ball animation, which is the same as what retail uses, even if it is the wrong animation. It's like they've copied the homing dash animation code and applied it to the jump up and purple gem jump animations. Intentional or not is hard to tell, but it's definitely not the way the animations were meant to be displayed. Which is interesting because this does confirm to me that the animations of this demo aren't completely perfect, even if they do have things like homing flip animations and chain jump animations. I gotta admit, this definitely is the closest we'll ever get to a complete animation set for Sonic. Still, it does amaze me, the closest thing we'll ever get to a final version of 06, and yet, it's still not quite perfect. Really does make me wonder just how many unused elements are there in the E3 demos files. I thought this was pretty interesting, but the rings in this demo aren't the same as the Tokyo Game Show 2005 demo, though, surprisingly, the hint ring shaders of this demo looks very similar to the ring shader of the 05 demo. Still not quite sure if it's the same shader, especially since the shader is animated, but it does look very similar, considering it's more gold looking. The demo also includes rotation physics, and to those who don't actually know what rotation physics are, they basically are like curve physics, so like if you run off of a wall, or interact with a spring, and you go in the complete other direction because of it, Sonic's model and hitbox will basically turn into place instead of in retail how it snaps into place. Yeah, this has like a more kind of smooth transition, a smooth curving animation, which, I don't know, just for some reason looks a lot more polished. In this demo, if you interact with ropes, he actually uses his idle animation compared to retail using a squat animation. A bit of a pointless difference, but I don't know, I sort of prefer the idle animation. Could be just me though. I think one of the most interesting aspects of this demo is the scrapped models, because aside from the basic changes like a different skybox texture, or geometry models not quite added yet, the red robot known as the Egg Stinger basically has a missile in this demo that is a scrapped model. It never appears in retail, and was never found in the retail files, so as far as I'm aware, this is a scrapped model. And what a real shame, because this model actually looks a lot better in my opinion. I don't know, something about it just looks a lot more menacing. Hopefully one day we can restore this, because be it for archiving purposes or just trying to restore it in gameplay, I just feel it would look a lot better. Interacting with checkpoints and rainbow rings in this demo are pretty interesting. For checkpoints, it doesn't even show a timer. Pretty much nothing does happen. Well, I shouldn't say nothing, because after hitting a checkpoint, if you respawn, it basically registers as if you have hit it again. Not entirely sure if the sound effect plays again, but the animation definitely does repeat. Speaking of sounds, aside from there being no voices for Sonic and Silver, the 1-Up jingle is actually pretty interesting. It actually uses the Sonic Adventure 1, 2, and Heroes jingle, which I sort of do get, because in the 2005 demo, they used the victory jingle from Heroes. I sort of do get where they were coming from.
Man, it really was aiming for an adventure.
While I'm on topics of 1-Up jingles and scrapped models, I might as well show the scrapped E3 1-Up capsule texture. If you ask me, this looks a lot better, because pretty much all the capsules in 06 are all orange and yellow looking, so to see something a bit different, it's a breath of fresh air. Speaking of capsules, aside from the 1-Up using a different capsule texture and a different jingle, in retail if you actually get a capsule, a bit of an icon appears at the bottom of the screen. The E3 demo doesn't actually do this, surprisingly. And what a real shame, because I would have loved to have seen the 1-Up capsule texture actually applied to the icon. Taking a look at the rainbow rings, aside from there being no logo or a score value appearing, if you interact with it, literally nothing does change for it. The actual score of the demo doesn't go up at all. It might give you a bit of a boost and a bit of a shortcut or something, but aside from that, there's nothing that will change in terms of score values. Another small change is the health bars. Some of the enemies in 06 have more than one hit to take down, and because of this, there's a bit of a health bar that appears for when you take them down. This doesn't appear in the E3 demo, surprisingly. Let's talk about Sonic's attributes. Aside from Sonic spawning in the air in Kingdom Valley's first section, interacting with some obstacles in this demo were very interesting, but that's on topic to placement, which I'll save for later. His moveset is actually a little bit different. I guess the only thing that's really changed in terms of speed is his spam attack, because you can spam out of a homing attack, which is really useful. It definitely keeps the game faster paced this way, kinda like how it did for Blaze's gameplay. Though I didn't know this until recently, but you can't actually move out of a homing attack recovery until the delay ends. You can actually turn Sonic, but you can't move out of place. Meaning, even with a spam attack in the E3 demo, there is still a delay. This way it keeps it so you can't actually move out of a homing recovery, which I sort of disagree with, to be honest. I kind of prefer it if you could actually move out of a homing recovery immediately. Moving and having the capability of homing attacking right after you recover is my ideal homing attack. This is something that Blaze's homing attack does actually do, so it's very interesting to see how Sonic, while he does have a spam attack here, can't actually move out of a homing attack until that retail delay expires. Makes me wonder how Shadow would have controlled if he were in this demo, or Blaze for that matter. For the homing dash, his homing dash actually has the same effect that the Xbox Live demo does, meaning gravity is actually applied to the homing dash. For light dashing as normal Sonic, from what I'm seeing it does look the same, but I could be wrong. For the spin dash, to this day I'm shocked that there's absolutely no footage at all regarding the spin dash in this demo. It's unlikely that it's any different, but still absolutely no piece of footage at all regarding it. I'm even more curious for that reason. Like, does it even exist in the demo? Or did people forget to use it? I really don't know. For his spin kick, we don't actually get to see this a lot. It looks like it's carrying momentum, but I'm probably wrong with that one. It's pretty interesting too, because if you actually spam the spin kick in retail, it does actually slow down. So I feel like they did leave some E3 codes in, but either way, we get the full effect here. Unlike retail, how it locks your speed to being nothing but that until the animation ends, if you spin kick in this demo, it will actually slow down. This isn't confirmed information as of right now, but it might be possible that you actually had to let go of the analog stick after performing a spin kick in order to slow down. This makes me think it might be possible to move left and right during a spin kick, so whoa. I'm really hoping that this is the case, because this definitely is better code compared to it being a set value to slow down. Though if it is actually coded to slow down, it kinda does make sense since retail does lock the speed to a certain value, and from all the footage that I've seen, it does look like it automatically slows down. So it could very well be that the E3 demo does do something similar to this, except it has a more noticeable effect. It's sad, but it might very well be true. But again, at the time of this video, this info isn't actually confirmed. It actually kinda reminds me of Omega's blast attack. If you let go of the analog stick while doing a blast attack, he kinda slows down while still doing the animation, so damn. Like the spin kick, his bound attack barely is shown, but that also looks like it's a little bit different too. I can't quite put my finger on what it is exactly, but it looks a little slower, so yeah, I really can't figure it out for this one, but something definitely does look different. It looks like it's slower but goes higher or something like that. I'd like to find more info and more footage on this eventually, but for right now what we've got, it's hard to tell, but like the light dash, I'll let you guys decide on what you're seeing. Another feature that's barely shown is actually the wind effect. Yeah, even 06 had jank like this. All I know is that there's definitely wind after the checkpoint and after this light dash trail. You can tell that there is definitely wind there, because there is particles of leaves flying up, which is basically the particle that's used that makes you float. And to be clear, this is the same particle used after the light dash. It still amazes me just how close the player was from actually triggering the wind in this playthrough. He was virtually touching it, but then went in the complete opposite direction. To those who don't know what the wind would have done, instead of falling to your doom like Retail does, wind will basically save you by making you float. And this is very interesting, especially since every other character has animations for interacting with wind. Hell, even Machspeed Sonic has animations for this. Because aside from this appearing in previous games, I can think of at least 2 or 3 stages that wind could be used for as level design, and that's not even including the multiple sections of these stages, or bosses as the case may be. Right. Eggwyvern. This animation might look very similar to the Fall to Your Doom animation, and for a while I thought it was like a built-in debug mode, especially since TGS05 has built-in debug mode, but after finding multiple pieces of evidence that this still exists both in code and animations, this is an unused animation, and this is a coded feature that would have appeared in Retail, but like the animation, it's not used. And like I said, the animation might look very similar to your Fall to Your Doom animation, but surprisingly this actually is a different animation. One day I really do hope that we can restore this unused feature, because while this isn't exactly a part of the attributes, it is level design that even the Unity project hasn't brought back thus far. So even if it's just through modding, if we could somehow restore this, it would be a real treat. And don't worry, we'll keep looking until we can find a solid answer. If it's a yes, we can restore it, or no, it's completely gone. If I were to guess, I would say that we can restore this, but at the moment we definitely do need more information regarding this. Something else to note is the gauge meter. Silver has one, Sonic doesn't. To this day, I still wonder why that is. All I can think of is that his gauge meter might have appeared in the pause menu, because recently we found evidence to support that his gauge meter would have had settings in the pause menu. And as of right now, we have barely any footage regarding the pause menu of the E3 demo. We only have this small little clip of it, and even then it's not what the camera's focusing on, let alone the fact the player's not Sonic. From what I can make out, the pause menu would have been a lot bigger, and from unused sprites left into the Retail files, there would have been a lot more to select from, including gauge features for Sonic. So if somehow Sonic's gauge meter were to be controlled through the pause menu, it would answer the question to why there's no gauge meter in Sonic's gameplay in the E3 demo. Either way, the mystery surrounding Sonic's gauge meter for the E3 demo is still very unknown, and hopefully we can find out more information in the future. Before I talk about Machspeed's attributes, I forgot to mention the anti-grav for Sonic, and really, from what I'm seeing, it looks pretty much the same as the Xbox Live demo version of it, that being the hitbox being very glitchy. Sonic can basically be touching the collision, but instead of recovering from it, you're still in an anti-grav. You can still recover, but it needs to be more head-on, even the slightest bit out, and you'll still continue to slide, but it's definitely something to look out for though. Let's take a look at the Machspeed section's geometry real quick. The skybox is actually using the Retail texture, which is interesting because the first section uses a daytime kind of skybox, so I don't know, did they forget to replace it with a daytime texture, or did they want it to go all cloudy? I don't know, but there is a sun present, so in Retail there is a sun also, but it's so bloomed that you barely see it. The reflections of water puddles also look a little bit different too, so I don't know how much has changed, if it's the lighting or if it's the actual end map or what, I don't know. The lighting itself though does look like a bit of a combination of the original lighting and Wave Ocean's lighting, so it's hard to tell if it was supposed to be a merge from daytime to overcast or what, but I guess it kind of explains the environment change perhaps. I don't know, I wish we had more information about it. It's also a little unclear why they would skip the second and third section, unless they were trying to cut down on the runtime of the stage, but aside from that, I don't really see a reason to skip those two, especially since Silver is playable in the same demo. Moving on to Machspeed's attributes, it still looks like things like moving while jumping isn't a capable thing in the E3 demo. At best, you'll see a more noticeable difference if you jump and move and then push forward with that speed jump. Which is funny because a lot of people always looked at that and thought, oh yeah, that's ring energy because he got the item capsule, it gave him ring energy, hence him going faster. When, no, the player just tried to move the analog to move into the capsule and just moved a little bit faster. This actually is a coded thing that you can do in retail, surprisingly, though the speed is so similar that you barely see a noticeable difference, even with mods. That's why it's so noticeable here in the E3 demo. It's why if you hit dash ramps like these and you don't move, he just falls down, because it's waiting for you to move down on the analog to get that speed jump. Not the best of coding, but that's how it works. I really do wish that this were a thing, but from what I'm seeing, and everything I've learnt from the files, ring energy really wasn't a planned thing. I think, again, commentators and viewers got confused with Sonic jumping into the power-up because of the speed he just got from the rings he acquired, and heck, I really wouldn't be surprised if people were getting confused because of the speed up of the demo. Because again, aside from loading strokes speeding up, Sonic's gameplay does actually speed up, and in a lot of ways I can totally see why people might look at this as Sonic getting speed from just collecting rings. But anyway, as far as I'm aware, the boost was planned, definitely not in the form of ring energy, but it would have been severely connected to the blue gem, because in the demo speed it definitely went a lot faster, and according to scrap text it was supposed to actually damage enemies. Not to mention the unused jet sounds. Need I mention the fact that Unleashed has jet sounds for boosting? Reminder that Unleashed uses a lot of unused sound effects from 06, from the homing smash, to even unused 06 menu sounds. Also, just saying, pretty much all demos that I've seen and played have really weak collision when it comes to speed. Like, you think it's bad if you have speed when going into a corner and clipping? Well then, damn, because if you play any of these demos, you don't even need to be on a corner with these speeds to clip. It's actually that bad, so surprisingly, retail actually did fix up something from the course of the demos to retail. The point I'm trying to make here is that if you can do something as basic as clip through a wall with something like a spin dash with that speed, imagine the kind of clips you could do with this speed that Machspeed Sonic has. The closest I've seen to this being fully realized is in this clip where Sonic in Wave Ocean is clipping through pretty much every single pole, and this is the retail attributes in this clip. Could you imagine if the E3 speed was applied to this? He'd be capable of clipping through pretty much anything. It's that bad. Yet, after saying all of this, I haven't found a single piece of footage regarding Machspeed Sonic clipping through walls at all. We can clearly see him light dashing and dying immediately right after doing so. So either when you die, his default dying speed reverts back to its normal default run speed, or the E3 collision walls has the retail collision. Either way, I'd be curious to hear what you guys think about this. Retail collision or reset death speed? As mentioned before, interacting with obstacles in the Machspeed section are very fast. It looks to me like dash ramp speeds carry on over into the Chainjump speeds because honestly, it really does look like he's carrying momentum. The fact that dash ramps go fast and the chain jumps look like they keep that same speed, either way, it really does keep the sense of speed and movement and momentum. And what a real shame that they completely ditched this and slowed the hell out of it. If there is momentum being applied, it's not being applied from your run or light dash speed, because we can clearly see Sonic slowly running into a dash ramp and then all of a sudden getting the speed like out of nowhere. So either the dash ramp speed is applied to the chain jumps, or both have the exact same value and it looks like momentum is carrying over. And holy damn, that animation looks beautiful. I made a video about this not too long ago, but I have a theory that when you interact with a wide spring for the second time, the fact that it doesn't play the ball and land animation like it does when you first interact with it could be why retail doesn't have a ball and land animation for chain jumps. Which, if that's the case, all we need to do is apply a ball and a land animation to retail's second interaction to a wide spring. But a reminder, this is just a theory. I might also add that the animation changes are very smooth, mainly because of rotation physics. Because if you take away rotation physics, it's just going to be animations snapping into each other, which by itself isn't a bad thing. What is bad is when he snaps, his hitbox is changing too, which makes the camera move to catch up to Sonic's updated hitbox. And as mentioned, rotation physics doesn't just affect the animation positioning, but also the hitbox positioning. It's bad enough as it is that we see the camera slowly catch up with the smooth rotation physics applied, but take that away, and it will undoubtedly look pretty unpolished. It may be the reason why they coded it to not use a ball and land animation. And to be clear, when the animation changes, the positioning also changes too, because remember, when he falls to the next pillar, that's not his default angling. If the angle was the same from when you jump off the pillar, he'd be facing a completely different direction. So the land definitely isn't the same animation but tilted differently, nor one sequenced animation. And this is also part of the reason why I thought wide springs had something to do with this too, because in stages that have chain jumps, specifically Wave Ocean, Radical Train, Kingdom Valley, and Flame Core, Sonic's angling can actually change. I always thought that this was some kind of RNG or just some glitch in general. It turns out this is actually no glitch, but it is a mistake. Basically how it works is you interact with a Chainjump's collision. You don't actually need to jump off of the wall. As long as you've just landed on the wall, you can fall off of it. After doing this, if you bound attack into a wide spring, where Sonic faces when you land on the Chainjump is where you will snap out of place. Oddly enough, Machspeed Sonic can't actually snap out of place by using this same method, and believe me, I modded the hell out of it to try and get it to snap. It's clear the mistake they made is aside from not having a ball and land animation applied, they forgot to include collision that ends the snaps. Because most chain jumps do have this. If most didn't include this, you'd see Sonic snapping out of place with pretty much every spring, rainbow ring, and dash ramp that you interact with, where this chain jumps. But for a select few stages, there are some chain jumps that do actually forget to include this disable snaps collision, and the result is what you're seeing. And I guess the reason for this is that if there's a ball and land animation applied to these obstacles, it's actually auto-default coded for the snaps to take place midway through a ball animation, which again might mean if you add a ball and land animation to a chain jump, it might just automatically snap it into place because it's auto-default coded to it. And if that's true, if we could somehow get it so normal characters could also have a ball and land animation as well, and it automatically snaps, it would explain an awful lot, because aside from normal Sonic, every other character uses a jump up animation when they jump off of a wall, so it only makes sense for there to be a ball and land. It's the exact same progression if you do a normal jump when on the ground, because again, as mentioned, there's a jump up, a ball, and a land. For normal Sonic, it uses his homing attack animation, so a ball animation. Sound familiar? Because if you jump off of a wall as Sonic, it doesn't use his normal jump up animation. It instead uses a ball animation, Sonic's homing attack animation. Just like normal Sonic's not meant to be used, jump up animation. Meaning, if you swap the homing attack animation, it'll affect not just the jump up animation, but also the chain jumping animation, excluding the Machspeed section of course. It's why you see Sonic's homing attack animation applied to not just the jump up, but also the wall jumping. And here I thought when I was younger that the ball animation was actually meant to be applied to all characters when chain jumping. Either way, hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of this and replicate the E3 chain jumps in the future using these methods, but all of this is way in the future. Right now we need to figure out how to apply a ball and land animation. Anyways, back to business. I always found the result screen to be very interesting. The whole mission complete being a 3D logo, it looks very similar to the effect that Rouge has when you grab keys, how it's kind of like a 3D model and it kind of appears as if it's like a bit of a HUD before it like disappears. There are some small changes in the actual result screen, believe it or not. To quickly go through them all, small and big, ring instead of rings, all the values being a lot more closer to the edges compared to retail being more in the center, the result using a different font, the Kingdom Valley logo being on that banner box, the rank itself being a little bit differently scaled, the fact that the entire result screen disappears before the game fades out, or hell, the fact it doesn't have an after result, how it doesn't give you a total rings at the end, compared to the Xbox Live demo doing this. Little changes like these that make me wonder what the hell was the point of even changing this in the first place. Be it for polish or not, it seems like odd decisions that were made here, but I definitely would have preferred the stage logo and definitely rings instead of ring. It's just a shame that the stage logo never got used in retail. I might also add, Machspeed Sonic actually has a goal loop animation, which I briefly showed in a previous video. I explained the reasoning to why it's not used, and to recap on it, the reason is simple. The start animation plays the way it's supposed to, but the loop animation that's never used is actually off scale, meaning if it were there in gameplay, it would actually kind of look like Sonic's teleporting. It's like I said before, this E3 demo does actually get a lot of things right with animation specifically, but it's amazing that even this demo doesn't have every animation perfected. Anyway, moving on topic to Silver, I found this to be interesting actually. Silver spawns in the air just like he does in retail, but he spawns more closer to the ground. On top of that, Sonic spawns in the air as well when you start Kingdom Valley. Why is that? I think it's a bit too ironic that both stages have you start in the air. Maybe it was a level design choice that was last minute, nah, let's have him spawn on the ground, not the air. I don't know, the way the mirrors are supposed to work is like a teleporter, kinda like in the classics where you would teleport to another dimension. So for that reason, it seems a bit more fitting that they would just spawn in the air. Also, I don't know if it's me, but I feel like the gauge meter is a slight bit different to retail. I don't really know what it is, but something about it just looks a little different. Mainly the hue, but I know it's camera recorded, but even those that are screen recorded, it still seems a little bit different. Maybe it's the transparency or something, but I don't know, something seems a bit different about it. Actually, you know what? Thinking about it, there was a second gauge in one of the unused sprite sheets. Maybe, just maybe, this is that gauge. It would explain a lot, but I just wish that there was more of a comparison to show the two differences apart. I hope I'm not the only one who thinks this, but hopefully in the future I'll be able to find more evidence to support that this is a secondary gauge. There really isn't a lot of differences with Silver's gameplay from what we can see in this video, and it really is unfortunate that we don't actually have access to the full video. The most important question I had luckily is answered here, and that's if Silver can actually levitate with objects still being held, and the answer is no, you cannot. The ladder-looking object that he grabs is released when you start levitating, which makes me curious because a very interesting-looking build that looks very similar to the E3 version has Silver actually levitating with this object still being held. It really is starting to make me wonder that the clip that we do see with him levitating with the object still held, if that was perhaps a glitch. Again, I'd like to hear your thoughts below. Unfortunately, at the 1 minute and 10 second mark, or the 10 minute and 37 second timestamp on the video, the recording, for some weird reason, goes all the way back to the start. So we can actually hear what's happening still, but visually, we're seeing what we've already seen from Sonic's Kingdom Valley section. It's very unclear as to why this happens, and if the actual full playthrough video still exists anywhere. But as of right now, as far as I'm aware, the rest of this video is unknown. Perhaps the rest of the recording was corrupted or something. Though, if that's true, why does the final frame of the video before it has the outro have a frame of Silver on the results screen? It's like it does still exist, but it was overlaid with other footage? Accidentally, perhaps? I don't know, it's weird. Again, it's why I'm hoping the rest of the recording does still exist and it isn't actually corrupted. Luckily, there still is footage regarding Silver in Crisis City, and from now on that is what I'm going to be using to talk about. So immediately from the loading screens we can already see that the loading strokes are not sped up, they are just like retail. I thought this was pretty interesting, but once the gauge is actually empty, in retail you're not actually meant to be able to pick up anything, but in the E3 demo you still can pick up some slight objects. The text also appears to be very mediocre, as if the translators haven't quite translated everything correctly just yet. Ring explosions seem to be quite different, like the Xbox Live Arcade demo. They spawn a little bit more closer to the character depending on how little rings you have. The more you have, the more they're going to separate and explode on impact. It's still a bit unknown to why the robots appear in Crisis City. Maybe they hadn't designed the Iblis monsters yet, even if Iblis was still a thing in the trailer. I did notice in the Xbox Live demo that some enemies weren't completely the same to retail to the point that it was very buggy. So perhaps they were more buggy for the Iblis monsters. That, or part of the reason, was because Eggman's robots terrorized the city, and before the final plot, the timeline had robots in Crisis City, hence their existence. Aside from that, a small change might be Silver's placement. For the most part, it's pretty much the exact same as retail, and aside from the enemies being robots, there are some slight changes in the crate's positioning. And honestly, that's really the only thing I've noticed that's different regarding the placement. Also, I didn't mention this before, but Sonic's placement pretty much is the same as retail. The only thing that's really changed is the speed of obstacles, but aside from that, there's actually a lot more lampposts compared to retail. It looks like it mimics TGS05 a little bit, but it is hard to tell if it's the same lamppost placement. It also looks like there's more hint placements, and the fact that there's no voices, it kind of makes sense that there'd be more hints. That way they don't have to worry about adding voice acting, or at least for the demo. We don't actually get to see all the hints being triggered. The one that interests me the most has easily got to be the one at the start, but who knows, it could be anything at this point. Something else I noticed is the eagles. Granted, there is a lot in retail, and there very well could be a lot more in the E3 demo, but from what I've seen, there's one behind the first raid of enemies. In retail, before the wind trail, there is an eagle here too. In fact, this could very well be the same eagle from the trailer that we see, which if that's the case, there may actually be more than one eagle at this point. It makes it that much more rewarding when you succeed. Some other placement changes could be the camera placements, the most notable being in the Machspeed section. Retail does have some camera changes, but in the E3 demo there is actually 2 that don't appear in retail. And what a real shame, because this actually does look a lot better. I don't know what it is, but I feel like retail just doesn't use a lot of camera changes, or at least as much as it could. I guess it's for that reason in the demo it's more noticeable. Something that's kind of bothered me a little bit is the goal rings positioning. I don't know, they're so close to the end, it seems like an odd decision to just put it a little closer. Instead of having the dash ramp shoot you off, perhaps just replace the dash ramp with the goal ring itself. Unless Crisis City wasn't actually intended to be that big of a stage for Silver, since it is his first stage, and because of that, it only makes sense when it transitions into the Iblis boss, since they're on a cliff-looking area. And aside from that, it's still quite alien because we only have 3 videos that actually show rankings, and there's only 2 that are different. 1B and 2S ranks. The first video showed a score of 23,270, which gave a B rank. In the same video, we don't actually see the ranking that Silver gets. We see him in the results, but we don't actually get the rank at the end, which is kind of annoying. But in the other 2 videos, we have 27,760, which gives an S rank, and a 33,260, which also gives an S rank. In this early build of 06, doing the math, I can only imagine 17,500 would have given a D rank, or 0, considering retail on the Xbox Live demo has 0 for D. 20,000 would have given a C rank, 22,500 would have given a B rank, 25,000 would have given an A rank, and 27,500 would have given an S rank. This way it actually adds up to this ranking system from this build. And with that all said, that's pretty much everything to cover in the E3 demo's gameplay. The only things I haven't really talked about is really just the music. And even then, there's not really a lot to talk about regarding the music. To get to the specifics, Kingdom Valley, before it goes into the lakeside track, doesn't actually have the choir part of the track composed yet. And the Crisis City Machspeed section music doesn't have a full ending. Which I guess does make sense since it's supposed to loop back to the start. Which also means the Tornado section music wasn't actually composed, at least at this point in time. Then finally we had the unused His World track, the E3 version, which if you guys don't know, does play in the title screen and the trailer. And I guess the Mission Complete jingle is the same as the Xbox Live Arcade demo, which is kind of the same as retail except it doesn't have a guitar solo at the end. Or maybe it does, just unused in the files, same as the Xbox Live demo. Outside of gameplay, 06 actually did have some E3 exclusive statues, and to this day I still wonder just what happened to them. Do they still have them locked up? Or like the statue that was recently found, maybe it's been made a landmark somewhere, and we have yet to find and archive photos of them. I really do hope that we can get more information about these E3 statues, because the amount of care and effort that was put into this Japanese statue really just goes to show just how far the fanbase can go, so I'm hoping one day we will learn the whereabouts of these statues. Same applies to the E3 version. Hopefully one day some collector, some 06 fan notices the E3 demo somewhere and decides to leak it out, or decides to pay big money to archive it, or just to do something about it in general. to find out if it even exists to this day. But if you ask me, this is definitely one of those demos that should be leaked. So at least by having the E3 demo, it can shed some knowledge of how good 06 could have been. And granted, we get a lot of this from the videos, but ask yourself this: would you rather watch the demo in action, or play the demo yourself? But either way, I'm sure we'll all learn a lot more in the future. In the meantime, at least you guys now know everything I know. So with all that said, thank you all for watching this amazingly long video. Hope you all enjoyed and learned a thing or two. And I know it's been a while, but stay tuned for an Infinite Mod release video. It's been forever, and I really do want to get a release video out at some point. I'm hoping sometime April I'll have a release video out by then. If not, then definitely May. Either way, after its release I do want to focus on an Infinite Boss mod, and this will definitely take a lot longer to mod. Anyway, thanks again for watching, hope you all enjoyed, and yeah, till next time, I'm out for now. Peace out, guys.